Okay, Cartalk number 3. So today I'm going to be talking about my advice for student teachers. So I talked about being a mentor teacher previously, and now I think it's only right to talk to the student teachers. So just a little about my background to recap. I was a mentor teacher for essentially 6.5 years. Had 9 full-time student teachers I worked with a whole year. And as far as pre-service teachers, it bumps that number up to closer to 15 to 16. Have to go back and actually check. But I would say for a student teacher, the first thing to think about is what you're going there to learn and how to maximize this year. So as a student teacher, you're in a program, most likely a credentialing program, and you're in a teacher's classroom. And this is the one time in your career where you get to try crazy stuff, and you're not going to get fired for it. It could flop miserably, but ideally your program and teacher should be there to support you through it. So the first thing I want to say is be ambitious more than you ever can be or will be right now, because you're in the hands of a mentor teacher and a program to try cool things. Now, as a flip to that, some mentor teachers are more supportive than others. So I would also keep that in mind, and also recognize that if you're going to try ambitious things, you have to be prepared and ask questions and really use and lean on your support network. Let them know what you're going to do. Let them know what your plan is. Ask them for feedback and advice so that when it does fail miserably, if it does, there's not a bunch of finger pointing, but rather than they all know that we're trying to push boundaries in this moment. If you're in an environment where that's not possible, it's a little bit of a bummer, not gonna lie. But I would just try to push as much as you can within the boundaries that are set for you. The second thing that I'm gonna say to you is that your mentor teacher is one teacher. And I think this is more and more grew to be my opinion the more I taught as I went from 1 to 10 years of teaching, is that there's not one model of what a good teacher is. And even though we evaluate on a rubric what a good teacher is, the reality is that education and learning happens in a variety of different ways, and you have to find who you are and what type of teacher you're comfortable being. And the reality of the fact is your mentor teacher may not emulate that necessarily. I know I didn't for some of my student teachers, and that was okay. So I wouldn't, if you have to just get through student teaching to get through student teaching, okay, but really make sure when you are developing yourself and reflecting, start to really make note of who you are and what type of teacher you want to be. Whether you want to launch every day with a scenario or a challenge for the kids to solve, like an escape room. Whether you more are leaning towards lecture and really dynamic, engaging lectures with students. Or whether you're going to be an inquiry lab class where everything is found through a lab experiment. I don't know which one you're going to be, and there's definitely good versions and bad versions of each of those, and there's my preference in there depending on what type of teacher you want to become. But just understand that you're observing one teacher, and although you may have a chance to see some other teachers, they may not deviate that far from them. And the thing that you're going to grapple with your entire career is the silo you choose to put yourself in, or the fields you choose to explore. And so what I mean by that is that You can choose to throw yourself in a silo at your school site, in your department, in your district, in your county, in your state, or you can choose to explore the fields outside of that and find other excellent teachers, whether it be online, whether it be in communities, whether it be at conferences, organizations. There's going to be plenty of opportunities for you to expand your horizons, and that's really going to be on you unless you're in a district that really supports it. So then the question becomes, well, then I'm just going to find the right district to support it. It's an option. It's hard. A lot of other factors go into it. The next thing that I would tell all student teachers is get involved early. Similar to what I said in the mentor teacher video, you need to just ask to be in front of the kids. The worst thing you could do for yourself, depending on demographic and such, the worst thing you can do is just hide in the back of the classroom and take notes. Ask your mentor teacher, be proactive about being in front of students, introducing yourself, taking over parts of lessons. After you saw one class period, repeat it with the next. Or elementary, if you saw they did the English, you do the math, and then rotate the next day. Like, try to get yourself in front of the classroom and just like build your rapport with your mentor teacher such that they let you. I know some mentor teachers like are scared or whatever. It kills me. But try to get out there. And what this is going to do is it's going to make it a lot better when you do take over the classroom, because inevitably what happens is that you've been in the back of the room this whole time and classroom management situations arise or whatever arise. And when the students have a problem, they're not going to look to you. They're going to look to the mentor teacher, the real teacher in the room, or you're not the real teacher. You're just a student. And you want to just not let that happen. If you do, it's an uphill battle. Your classroom management becomes a lot worse. And then to get the class under control, you need your mentor teacher. I mean, advocate for yourself to be in front of the classroom. Advocate for yourself to try to address those behavioral issues and classroom management issues early on. And then get advice and feedback from the mentor teacher. Like, how did I handle this? How would you handle this? What would you do differently? So the students respect you, so that when you do take over and that other teacher's not paying attention or turned away or walks out the classroom, you have full confidence that you control the classroom, you control that space, and you'll be good to go. If you push this off, it'll only get worse. You're gonna have to learn the same things. You'll have seen it a bunch of times, but check this, it's gonna be less effective. So even though you do exactly what the mentor teacher did, you practice the exact same thing the mentor teacher did, you're gonna be less effective just because you weren't doing it from the start and you just sat there and the students saw you just sit there. Not because you didn't do anything wrong. And I find that it's so tragic, because I see student teachers have such a rough time sometimes just because they weren't doing it from the start, and students see you as an observer and not the teacher, and psychologically they're like, you are not a person of authority, therefore I do not respect that or respect you. And then you're just hoping that they love you. Which leads me to my next point: make the kids love you. Spend the extra time getting to know them, ask them questions about who they are, get to know them on a personal level, so the students do like you. So even if your classroom management skills are rough and it's hard and you overstep potentially in your directions or and whatever you're doing, the students can be forgiving with you if they like you. And like, I think, how do you make students like you? It's like, don't be their friends, and this is like a fine line, that whole nother conversation, but you need to just get to know who they are and then look to see how you can professionally or academically support them in their lives, with their life goals, what their mission is, with their daily basis, empathize with them, but as an authority figure. And this is going to be a little bit tough for transition, but ask yourself, like, as a mentor, how would a mentor get to know a child be involved in their life, care about their personal life, but not be a friend. And I think that there's a variation where be friendly, don't be friends, because you're not. You're their teacher, and that'll go pay dividends on. I know student teachers have done this by knowing every student's name and an interest about them on a seating chart. I've had student teachers do this by putting down fun facts on kids on flashcards and would remember it and call them randomly, and when they called them, it would remind them of a thing about themselves. I had student teachers who greeted students at the doors and asked them a question as they came in every single day. I had student teachers who, when we were doing independent activities, would start looping around just talking to students about their work and then ask them a personal question. All of this is extremely important. Other than that, I think that just to acknowledge it's hard to be a student teacher. It's a lot of work, and teaching is hard, but it's very rewarding, and you will benefit the rewards if you do the things we talked about. If you introduce yourself early, if you put yourself in the front as a teacher early, if you get to know the kids, if you're ambitious and you're trying new cool things, the kids will see it and the kids will respect it. Students can smell authenticity. And if you're authentically trying your best to give them the best, and you're trying the best to do them justice, students will recognize that. And if students recognize that, you're going to be set for a great school year. Now professionally, I'm going to make another video about tips that I always recommend my student teachers, and probably part 1 as they come to me, because every year I have student teachers, there's a bunch of just tips, maybe not just professionally, but outside of the classroom that I give, and we'll start recounting some of them. So without further ado, that is Cartalk number 3. Hope you have a wonderful day. Like, subscribe, share, and bye.